My name is Armando Minjarez, and welcome to my studio. I was born and raised in Chihuahua in Mexico, but have been in Kansas for just over 20 years now. I went to school and studied art at Garden City Community College, and then finished my studies at Kansas State University. Technically, my concentration was in ceramics. I do have a background in painting. That's what I did before I started messing around with ceramics, was doing a lot of drawing and painting. But once I started playing with the material, it just kind of won my heart over. And ever since, I've been doing a little bit of everything, really. So in 2015, I launched Del Norte Studio, which is a kind of interdisciplinary ceramic studio where I make pottery that I sell online and at different boutique shops. But I also do just good old ceramic sculpture. As an interdisciplinary artist, I'm always looking for different projects that pique my interest. So I've done a little bit of public art, installation, painting, mural making. So all of those things happen in one form or another in the studio. The first community based mural that I did here in town was the Immigration is Beautiful mural located on 21st Street in Park Place. That's a really special one for many reasons. It was the first time that I engaged a group of high school students. It was kind of a pilot, so to speak, where I was in their space in the classroom collaborating with educators and with the students and coming up with concepts and designs and kind of working through their own personal stories and how that could be reflected in the artwork. And ultimately, that's the mural they came out. Another project that people might also be familiar with is Horizontes project, which was this large-scale community-based project that engaged two historic neighborhoods in Wichita, the North End, the Northeast in town. And most people are probably familiar with the giant grain elevator mural painted by Gleo. But in addition to that, there were about 20 other murals that were painted in both neighborhoods by local and regional artists. And there was a whole series of workshops and conversations and lectures and door knocking and surveying that we did with the neighborhood. So that was probably the biggest community project that I've done to this date. I don't know, like if we look at this lid, we know that it's a lid and we dismiss it as that. However, once you actually take a close look at it, you realize that there's so many elements to it. There's a grommet here that keeps the water tight. There's the threads where it screws. There's kind of a bevel here. There's a little indentations maybe for your hands. There's this kind of curve on here. So there's all these little pieces of design that were considered by somebody, right? You can take anything from a carton of milk, the bag that you get your groceries in, to the parking lot that you're pulling up to work every day. Everything around it has been considered by somebody, and I'm really interested in how those things become invisible. It's almost like an exercise that keeps me present, right? When I can slow down and look at the little objects, look at all little elements of everything around us, it helps me feel grounded when so many things feel out of control. So this collaboration with KMUW gave me an opportunity to carve out some time where I can actually go down and play with paint again and revisit some of those concepts. And at the time that I was working on those pieces, I mean, we're still in winter, but it was even colder than it is today. And I was in the studio kind of hunkered down with the heater going on, and it's really gray outside, and I'm trying to paint all these kind of bright, colorful pieces. Thinking about just the environment and the outside, just that the weather was like for those few weeks, I was getting a little bit of the winter blues, and that's where the name came from. But just the act of painting again and it takes a lot of meticulous work to kind of come up with really crisp lines and all of that. So again, going back to the meditation of slowing down, looking at the small little details, and allowing my brain to slow down and be present. Despite the winter blues that I was feeling, I was, always try to find that joy in the smallest things that I do. Some days I'm more successful than others.
Yeah.
Going back to my own struggle with kind of the busyness of the world, I cannot stand regular radio or TV for that matter because there's so many commercials happening all the time, and it just doesn't allow me to stay present and focus. And with KMUW, I'm constantly with headphones on or with my speakers here in the studio, and I'm listening to the programming right in their kind of podcast form as well. So this is one of the projects that I've been working on for the last few weeks, actually. It's a new mug that I'm launching, and also it's connected to a local business as well. So you can kind of see the whole design process. It kind of starts with hand sketches of the really meticulous sketches with measurements of the work that I'm gonna do, and then that kind of goes into another program where I can do a cleaner design of it, like a more definitive design. And then from that, then I create the piece 3D, right? So it goes from here to then this. And this is all made out of plaster, just a solid piece. And this is where I get to use to create a mold, right? The molds, also plaster molds are made, which then this, mug comes from this. You can kind of see the difference in size, right? So there's quite a bit of shrinkage that happens, and that's why there's so much sketching and calculating that needs to happen to make sure that whatever I making ends up being the correct size at the end of the whole process. So this is a new Jarito. It's like a spin-off of a traditional Mexican mug.
Okay.
It's kind of a ubiquitous piece in Mexico. Almost every household has one of them. They're produced en masse, but they're also very traditional in shape and style. So I wanted to create kind of my own, a little more contemporary version of it, but that people can still recognize it as such. So you can see the beginning to the very end. There's many, many steps
Yeah.
that I skipped in this process. Ceramics is very much process oriented, and I think that's one of the main reasons that I enjoy it. Again, it helps me quiet the voices in my head and focus.